down inside, all of us know that the way that society normally works just doesn't work. It doesn't make sense, especially with like the rising costs of college, and it just hearing of stories of people paying $300,000, $400,000 to get a degree, to struggle to even find a job after college, to seeing the countless amount of stories that we see on TikTok or social media of people that have a 4-year degree or even a 6 or 8-year degree, and they can't find any work or they're getting laid off. And especially with the world that we live in now today, with like the internet and just all of these people adding zero value to society, doing, weird dances on social media that are making more than doctors are making. It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't even add up anymore. And at a young age myself, I started to come to realize that it doesn't really make sense. I remember when I was in high school, all of my people that I looked up to, my family, my friends, everyone's talking about going to college. I just went to a graduation the other day, actually, for a family member the other day, and every single person, I think like 90% of the people, they were going to college. And I know damn well they're probably going to change their degree. They're probably going to spend a ton of money going to college. Hopefully some of them have scholarships, but not everybody. And they go to college, they go get a job, they go sit in a cubicle, or they go do whatever it is, and they're just in a batch full of misery, if not for 40 years, at least a good 10 to 20 years. And I don't see how it makes any more sense with like the way that what traditional success was. Like, people aren't buying houses anymore. Like, people my age in their 20s aren't able to even afford to buy a house, especially with like the interest rates, especially with, the cost of a house. It doesn't even add up. Like, I don't even know, like, I live in a pretty nice neighborhood, and I don't even know how most of the people like afford the houses, unless they are, unless just everyone's making that much money. But I know damn well that a lot of them, they've lived there for 20, 30 years, and they just have bought the house when it was a lot cheaper. Society puts all this pressure onto us to try to force us into being this box. But I don't think a lot of us are meant to do these things. I don't think a lot of us are, like, trading our soul for a paycheck, in my mind, doesn't make any sense to me. And I'll never let society's expectations run my life again. I was going to go down that path. I was going to go get a job. I was going to I went to school. I went to college. I was getting a degree in computer science. I was doing all the right things. And I'm glad that I didn't necessarily get a degree, because now I'm seeing all these people that are getting these mass layoffs now. But while I was going to school, it wasn't adding up for me. The thought of trading 40, 60 hours a week to, maybe be able to make 6 figures of income, but then half of it goes to taxes, and I'm not necessarily, like, I'm building other people's wealth and success, and then hopefully 20, 30 years down the road, then I can start to be in their shoes. But I don't think society makes any more sense anymore. I think society is broken. But it's due to the peer pressure. It's due to the peer pressure of all these people around us telling us that we need to do these things. And I don't even think, like, I think if we didn't have people constantly down our throat asking us in high school, or breathing down our neck asking where you're going to go to school, where you're going to go to college, have you applied yet? Have you gone to, like, what schools are you going to go to? If we didn't have any of that, I don't think anybody would necessarily go to college. If, from me, being in in a marketing world, in a marketing perspective, and being someone that is an internet marketer that's really successful at it, now that I am in this position, now that I know these things, it's all a marketing funnel. It's all a sales funnel. The entire system is a machine. It's a system built to turn people in. It's to take opinions and thoughts out of people. It's to put people into, to pay these colleges absurd amounts of money, and to go get a job and to be a good worker. I remember my dad they were hiring some interns for his business, for like a software they were developing in the wind industry. And they were interviewing some of the, like, they were going to the school to get some interns to help them work, like help them hire some people for this opening that they had. And I remember the dean of the school coming over, and he was kind of walking them through about like their internship program and what that was like. And I remember very vividly, he described all of the students, and their system that they have at school is that they are the best at developing employees, and they're really good at creating good employees. And knowing that that was the product of these schools that they're creating employees to give to these companies so that they're able to have a higher success rate at their schools, and that they're able to make more, like charge more for their schools, because they're able to place people into more job opportunities. And just seeing like the sales funnel that is the current system that we have, I realized that, and as soon as I started to find out that there's other ways of making money than just being a product of the system, and instead like creating your own system as by yourself, I realized that I never wanted society to run my life ever again. And so I remember very vividly when I was going to college, I got this sales job, and I had this mentor that while I was doing the sales job, he was talking about hustling and making multiple different income streams, and always like talking about like passive income and being able to live life on your own terms. And that totally exposed my brain and exposed my mind and exposed myself to the fact that there's these other realities of being able to live life. And now the previous kind of system where that was all set up, passive income was, purely just physical real estate, but it's harder than ever to get into physical real estate. Like most people aren't even close to being able to get that. So then that's when he introduced me to this book. It was called Think and Grow Rich. And I read not Think and Grow Rich. It was Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And when I went through this book by Robert Kiyosaki, he was talking about liabilities and assets. I'm getting my words tripped up today, guys. But there were liabilities are things that we buy and then they deteriorate. Most of us were trying to get a nice car and a nice apartment and stuff, but those are liabilities. They're not making us money. As soon as we buy them, our money disappears, it vanishes. As soon as we drive a car off the lot, it loses 20% of its value. And so whenever we buy cars, we are losing money. These are liabilities. And then if they have any issues or oil changes or tire or car payments, that money is gone. And instead focusing on buying things that are assets, things that produce us cash flow, buying things that allow us to store our money, buying things that allow us to increase our income. And instead of losing money, our money is able to compound and we're able to preserve this wealth that we create. And that's when I came across digital real estate. And that's when I came across all of these different ways of building things that we create at once, and we're able to sell for multiple times over, or we're able to create this thing and multiple people are able to consume it, and creating leverage. And once I started to build YouTube channels and started to build digital products and started to sell things online, I started to realize that there is no reason to be a part of this system where you wake up at some certain time in the morning every single day and you have to go clock into an office, and you have to go get some projects in some sweaty atmosphere in a cubicle, and have to go work with like a dictator of a boss and be in this environment. And so as soon as I discovered that you can make money in all these different ways, I realized that I never wanted to be a part of that system that was what everybody normally preached. And I wanted to go blaze my own path, and I wanted to go do my own thing. And I wanted to be able to live life on my own terms instead of on somebody else's terms. And as soon as I came across that discovery, I told myself that I was going to do whatever it takes to make that happen. And it didn't happen immediately. It took, some time of making videos, of trying some different businesses out. And then eventually I made it work. And that's when I started to detach my association of time from money. There's 3 different stages of making money, and I'm trying to get to now the third stage, which is the first stage of making money is where you trade your time for money. And so that's where you're clocking in or you're putting in the time and you're able to get paid for money. Now, what you want to get to is where you at least are trading your knowledge for money. And so this is where you're kind of more of a consultant, or you're able to get a really high salary job because of the skill sets that you have and the ability that you have to produce value for a company or for a person, and the value that you're able to, like the money that you make is a direct correlation of the skill sets that you have. And so this is where, you become like a doctor. This is where you become somebody that's working at, like a consultative job. That's where you're kind of working more of a managerial position. And that's where you're trading your knowledge for money. And the more skilled you are, the more you're able to make. And an instant way of doing this too is by doing sales. As soon as you start doing sales and you're tied to a commission-based relationship with money, then Now at least, you know, you don't have to, it's not about necessarily how many hours that you put in, but it's more about the product that you produce, the results that you produce. And then now you're able to, your income is directly correlated to the knowledge and the skill sets that you have. And that's why people in sales, they're able to make hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, and their income is typically uncapped, besides the quality of the opportunity that they're in. So you want to get to the point where your knowledge is associated with the money that you earn. And so, you know, you could do that with the YouTube channel or making content. And it's just like the better the knowledge that you put out there, the better the knowledge that you create. At least when you do it on a YouTube channel or an e-commerce business or some sort of business or an agency or something, then you're able to build leverage. And as you, it starts to not be associated to your time. It starts to not just only be associated to the knowledge that you have, but then it starts to become, the money starts to be associated to the leverage that you create. And then eventually you get to the point, which is the direction that I'm now starting to head towards, where my money is attached to my name and the value of my name that I build. So the more brand equity that I build in my own name or the companies that I own, the more that I am worth and the more money that I have. And when you get to that point where you're able to get to where you have a name that is worth X amount of dollars, and that is the association that you have with money, then you're able to be completely detached from the system. That's where you can live life on your, besides having knowledge trading for money and your name trading for money, that's where you can start to become detached from the system. Now you're not a cog in a machine anymore. Now it's about how much value you give to machines to give the machine, and how powerful that machine is and how leveraged that machine is. Then you're able, like the more leverage that you give, the more power that you give it, the more money that you're able to make. And so as soon as I discovered that, and as soon as I figured that out, I decided I would no longer ever let society run my life. Instead, I would always figure out, how do I provide more value? How do I become a more valuable person? How do I own more valuable businesses and companies? And how do I live life on my own terms? And instead of it being about how many hours I work, but instead the product that I create and the output that I have and the value that I'm able to create for people is a correlation to how much money that I make. So that's what you need to do. You know, figure out how to become more leveraged. You need to figure out how to get out of the whole system of trading your time for money. That's like rule number one. Get out of that. Get out of a salary job. Get out of working a 9-to-5. Get out of working at McDonald's, working for $10 an hour, especially working minimum wage, or even $30 an hour, even $100 an hour. Your time is, if you're not working, you're not making money. So you want to get to where then your expertise is able to make you money, and then your assets or the leverage that you create. And it doesn't always have to be necessarily capital leverage where you're buying real estate and building like real estate leverage. It can be code leverage. You can build softwares. It can be media leverage where you're creating content, and then that content is able to reach hundreds, thousands, millions of people. And then that traffic and that attention that you were able to create is able to make you money. So watch my other videos that I got about breaking down this. No longer be a system, no longer be a product of the system, and let society's expectations run your life again. My name is Devin Canup. Thank you for your time watching this video.